Welcome to the Piper Sandler Mobility Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Shiva Kumar, Managing Director and Head of Mobility Tech Investment Banking Practice at Piper Sandler. With us today, we have Frank Petznick, Executive Vice President of Continental AG and Head of Autonomous Mobility Business Area. Continental develops pioneering technology and services for sustainable and connected mobility of people and their goods. Founded in 1871, the technology company offers safe, efficient, intelligent, and affordable solutions for vehicles, machines, traffic, and transportation. In 2021, Continental generated about 34 billion euros in sales, has about 190,000 employees, and is located in 58 countries and markets. Frank Petznick has many years of experience developing and deploying innovative new technologies in the field of electronics, infotainment, and sensor technology. Prior to joining Continental, Frank was Executive Vice President of Automated Driving at Hella and a member of Hella's Electronics Executive Board. During his tenure at Hella, Frank held executive roles on both a regional and global basis. Without further ado, let's welcome Frank Petznick. Good morning, Frank. Welcome to the Piper Sandler Mobility Tech Podcast. It's great to have you on the podcast and get to hear your views.
Yeah, Shiva, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, let me first of all congratulate you on many of the successes and accomplishments, starting from Hella days as well as now at Continental. I would love to kind of get your views on broader mobility trends, given your experience and background. So when you think about like the last 2 to 3 years, how that mobility trends have changed and what is the current focus now?
I think the last 2 to 3 years, it is getting a bit more mature in the ideas of the mobility. There was this big hype like a couple of years ago, 2015, 16, when everything went up and we say, well, we will have robotaxis in every second corner. This went through a valley, but then now in the last 2 to 3 years, you could really see how the idea is forming and the technology is available. So altogether, this brings us really in a position to actually having mobility solutions on the road, or not only on the road, but certainly this is what I'm doing most, and then really bring these ideas into something you can convince people to buy it or can convince people to use it. And I think this is a major game changer now to have that really. We are really in a position to do it for real.
So what are the specific trends are you seeing in the market now? Obviously, it was autonomous mobility, it was ADAS, user experience, networking, also the software and services. What are the kind of few areas that you and in Continental focused on?
What we see clearly is there is an increasing trend of safety functionalities coming by regulations, and also many of the drivers want to have that assisted driving. This is the typical ADAS aspect, which is upgrading now slightly to traffic jam assist and other ideas. And then we see also that in the autonomous world, it might come to business cases which are really flying in the more commercial area, like in trucking, where you bring fleets on the road, hub to hub or ramp to ramp. I think this could be the next big deal. And of course, having those assisted functions and other helpers in the car, the connectivity becomes more and more important to do. You want to upgrade the way you're driving. You want to upgrade the time you're spending in the car. That could be by these very nice displays and bring it in the windscreen, or having the displays in the car, but also having the right connectivity towards the car. But also, one of the biggest trends I see is that you equip the car beforehand with a number of sensors, systems, and so on, and you have an upgradable software platform where you after the car is sold and the car is running at a customer, you can upgrade the car in every single direction. This could be on a driving function, it could be on a visualization, bringing more content on your displays, and adding complete new user experiences into that car. I think this is the most biggest game changer we will see in the next couple of months and years to come.
Yeah, I guess the way I've been thinking about this is obviously car is a third vertical, home, office, and vehicles, where there is much more proliferation of software and services. One of the questions, obviously, the automotive industry has been testing and sort of seeing the opportunity is going from a one-time sales to subscription. So could you talk about a little bit more about the subscription model that you think will evolve over time?
Yeah, I think there will be not this one model, what I'm seeing right now, but everyone is preparing for this kind of a subscription or upgrade by one-time payment. There's a different models out there you could use for this one. I mean, certainly people need to get used to that one, because you know it from your phone, you know it from other things, but the car, as we know it or we knew it in the past, you bought it somehow and there was not much upgrade possible. So having this also in the mindset and in the mind of the people to this is possible. At the same time, you want to have the safety features included because you're still driving a car. This is not a mobile phone. This is not a laptop computer. So you want to make sure there is no blue screen or some dark screen suddenly in your car. So you need to get the trust that the system, the over-the-air updates are really working in a way that you can trust your life and the life of your family. And then with this one now coming more and more into play, and I think all the OEMs are working on this kind of models, then it's a question of what kind of functions you will add and what people are willing to pay for that one. So it's a bit of a, let's say, step-by-step game. So I don't know whether there will be the final subscription model already defined right now, because there's also a chain of suppliers of OEMs and fleets, customers, and so on. So, there's an established model in the current auto industry, which will change. And of course, all the players are bringing new ideas on the table and trying to get a little bit of a piece of a cake. So it's difficult to say what will be the final subscription model, but I'm pretty convinced there will be one.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like some of the OEMs, such as BMW is testing the subscription model. Is yet to be seen whether those business models are viable and by the way, the customers are willing to pay. Curious about your take on, obviously Continental has got a rich history of, I believe it goes back to like 160 years. What makes you think that the Continental with its rich history is in a better position or in the best position to actually evolve as a market leader as the market evolves?
First, I don't think that the history per se is giving you an advantage automatically, right? So what we do know and what we have a very rich experience, and we know how to bring things reliable on the road. So we know how to produce hardware, first of all. We know how to produce little black boxes with the content in there. We added later on software on this one and sold it with the software together. So we are pretty good in safety. We know exactly what it means to produce safety critical parts for automotive industries. So this is different maybe than some of the new players coming around. But for me, it's absolutely important that we partner up with those new players, because we bring something to the party. But the speed, the innovation happens very often in some other spaces. So in startup companies and software companies. So what we need to do is to combine those two things. We need to find a way to bring this innovative potential with our safety ideas, with our industrialization power into a car. And we're doing this right now by doing partnering in a bigger scale. So we're partnering with smaller startups, with bigger customers, or with customers and bigger companies, both. So to be really have the best of both worlds. And I think this is something which also Continental needed to learn, and we are on a process learning this even better. that this is a win-win situation. It's not by a typical M&A to buy another piece of IP. No, it's really to have a very innovative partner, which you give a certain platform or a certain cooperation model, which both are benefiting of. And this could then be really the next great cooperation, the next great innovation to bring these, let's say, traditional know-how, as you just said, like 150 years of continental industrialization power, then also having these new innovative, more software-driven developments, and find a middle way to really have a reliable product in this autonomous or in general in the mobility field.
Yeah, that actually brings me to the next question, which is sort of a commercial partnerships or partnerships in general. Obviously, Continental has done a phenomenal job in creating partnerships across the various value chain, and I feel like you specifically has accelerated those partnerships from compute and hardware to sensors, from AWS all the way to Umbrella, the recent commercial partnership. Could you talk a little bit about like how you envision this partnership to kind of play out? Obviously, AI being one of them on the LiDAR space, auto brains on the other side. How are you thinking about stacking up those partnerships based on their priorities?
I think we had a stepwise approach, specifically in my area, where we said first we need to fill some gaps in the area of sensors and the traditional, let's say, sending hardware and software, which is then, you just mentioned LiDAR, for example, but also computer vision. There were some aspects where we need to bring partners in to really fill our white spots. But the biggest goal was then to bring it up to a certain level, working with, for example, Umbrella on the SoC system on a chip space, to not only having the chip, but also having a partnering with a software stack, the full stack solution, where we bring some software to the party. Umbrella is doing, we integrate some other of our partnerships into that cooperation, so we can offer our customers a much bigger piece than the sum of all of our partners. And this requires a thinking process on all sides, because number one, Continental always did it by itself. So that is something which is deeply embedded, of course. We have great engineers, and these people are really able to make magical things. But sometimes there might be a piece of knowledge or a piece of IP out in the market where somebody spent a lot of focus work on that. And it makes so much sense to grab that and put it into your already existing system rather than doing it by yourself. And then use our very, very smart engineers to make a bigger piece out of this one rather than to redevelop it. So, and to having this mindset shift, I think this is one of the key elements. And of course, quite frankly, it's a different situation. If you're coming out of the corporate world with a lot of processes and a big organization, hierarchies, and so on, and then you're working with a startup type of company, which is very agile, very fast, quick decisions. To bring those two mentalities together, this requires a certain supervision on the one side, also from management point of view, but you also need to select the right people on both sides. Otherwise, this will fail. And I think having this in mind, this is what I'm having as a vision also for my area, but also Continental as a whole, to say we need to find the right enablers to bring those two worlds or this multiple worlds together to create something bigger. And this will be the biggest challenge I would see in the next years to come.
You're spot on. I was Frank, as I mentioned to you before my role at Piper, I was a CFO of an enterprise software company, and I did a number of deals, commercial partnerships with large companies. And there are different types of DNA that you need to do sort of partnership. You need both, as I call it, missionary as well as mercenaries. Mercenaries are the salespeople, missionaries are the business development folks. And having the right DNA and the right mindset makes a huge difference. So that sort of like leads me to the kind of sort of a different question, and I want to go back to your early years or before Continental, when you packed your bags, took your whole family to China, when you were part of Hella, and you built an entire kind of $1 billion plus revenue business. And that is not uncommon. That's not, it's not like everyone can do it, but you did it. I want to understand, like, what are the kind of the key lessons, key takeaways from that experience?
Yeah, there was indeed a wild journey. I did start in China. That was back in 2008. That was shortly before the crisis. To that time, we thought it's a big one, came, and it hit the entire world, but not China, which also made a lot of thinking processes happen in my former employer. But I was on the ground, and I looked at this market, and this was an interesting market because it was a market which was just starting to develop. So everyone was excited. Everybody wanted to have the great automobile productions in China. They were fascinated about technologies. At the same time, many of our customers didn't have the idea how to do that. So I came with to that time I came with the Volkswagen background. So I had also the OEM experience. So I knew a little bit about how an OEM is working, what are the challenges. So, and this is similar to some challenges we have today. So there was a market which wasn't clear yet where to go. So they were used to have products coming from Western companies into China, but now everyone want to have these their own solutions, and it's a crucial point to find the right people understanding that market, speaking the language. I'm not talking about speaking Chinese, but understanding what the customers need, what the end customers need, what the OEMs have to provide, and then make custom-made products for this market. And this was the biggest thing we did to that time. We stopped this just importing designs from our headquarters, but to think about complete different solutions for that market, more turnkey solutions, which were required by the OEMs because they didn't want to select single components and put it together by themselves. They want to have a turnkey solution in the car, which is working. And so we developed those things in our development center locally. We produced them locally. So we had a direct access with the customers. So this was helping to get the trust, and then also to bring our products in almost every OEM in China. And this was interesting to see because there was a lot of resistance at the beginning, of course, also coming out the headquarters saying, hey, you cannot do that. You have to look at our designs as a proven design for, 50, 100 years. We were doing this like this. The processes are stable, so we should use that one. So it was a big debate whether you could do this. At the end, we did it. And when we were successful and we could establish those products, even some of those innovations then turned back and went back towards the headquarters, and we could use it in the global markets too. So what we see is in that market that specifically, if you have the right people understanding exactly what the local needs are, then there's nothing can stop you in being really successful delivering those kind of systems. And I think that was one of the key aspects we had in China growing that business, certainly supported by the overall growth China was seeing in that time, and really tremendous setup of different OEMs coming, then adding to this different stages of the Chinese automotive industry. So I think this was really something which gave me an experience which was absolutely fantastic, specifically working with those teams and teams of engineers who really want to achieve something, and they were not perfect. They don't have the 30, 50 years experience as a background, but there were people who really had this passion to really make a change. And I think this made up a lot of let's say, issues at the beginning you might have if you ramp up such a big R&D operation.
It is all. I always find it impressive. I feel in terms of building teams, raising capital, having selling product. Those are hard, but not as hard as changing mindset. So when I think about you getting in there, building a business, starting from the ground up, and along the way changing the mindset, how the company has worked for several decades, or some even centuries. I think that's the toughest job in my mind, task. Obviously, it has paid dividends for companies in general. I would love to kind of understand, like, how many years did you stay in China?
Oh, I stayed in China like 12 years, but I did the China role of the CEO of electronics. I did for like 10 years, and then later on changed to autonomous mobility as well in Heller. But and this is part of the thing. It is nothing you do overnight. So you have to be consistently working on this idea. And there will be a lot of obstacles coming up, a lot of naysayers, and we cannot do that. But you have to continue. You have to find let's say, a core team of very, very high skilled and super passionate professionals, and keep on moving, adjusting right or left, but keep on moving, and don't be too easily distracted by some first not so successful corporations or decisions, where you need to keep on moving on a vision. I think that was the persistence was basically the goal also to that time in China, and I think it will be the same for my current task.
And I believe your daughter speaks fluent Chinese.
Oh yeah, she does. She's the best in the family. This is my daughter, my wife, and then I'm coming somewhere. So yeah, she's reading, writing, speaking. That's certainly an advantage in today's world, I would say. Yeah.
It is.
Because there will be a strong influence in whatever aspect out of China in the world.
Yeah, shifting gears a little bit and back to your sort of commercial partnerships, which you have inked with a number of companies on the compute and hardware as well as on the sensor side. A question for you: is the kind of the level of activity on the commercial partnership has reached its peak, and now you're going to wait for some time, or you're going to continue to kind of look for partners in 2023 and beyond?
Let's say in the area of where we are now with the software and the hardware, the chips, I think we are pretty much settled, and we have to bring it into life now. But you can expect in 23 some other partnering, also bigger scope, which is a completely different setup of partners. So it's not like what we're now doing is to upgrade our systems. The next partnering might be even to upgrade our business ideas and business models behind. So this is a different type of partnering. So it always needs to come one at a time, and we need to complete our portfolio on the technology side, in the software and the chip side, and then also up to the idea how we do business. And yeah, this is not the peak yet, but of course, the more important thing now is to make it really happen. To announce a partnership is a very important and very, very good step, and it doesn't come out of the sudden. So we worked already for years and years with Umbrella, but to make that really a product which is able to be sold, which is able to change the market, this is the next step to come, and this is the real key challenge.
I would love to understand like how you're thinking about, obviously you build businesses organically. You now obviously you have inked number of commercial partnerships. So that is all organic ways of expanding your business or growing your business. And there's another aspect where we come in from a banking perspective, is helping companies do acquisition. So what are your views on inorganic growth?
Yeah, I mean, first, it's fair to be said that Continental has a rich history in acquisitions. So it's not that we never did this in the past, and I'm 100% sure we will continue doing this in the one or the other aspect wherever it makes sense. In the current area where I am working in, I think it's super important to have innovative partners and keep that speed and the innovation into those companies. And as soon as I mean, it's true certainly for smaller companies. If I do an acquisition as a Continental towards a smaller company, this might very, very easily kill the innovation in that area, because we come with all of our processes and nice ideas how to run a company. So what I'm trying to do is have a win-win situation where we're helping each other, committed to a common case, of course, I won't rule out, and we did it already in the past, that we make joint operations, but not necessarily take the entire thing and then really assimilate that towards Continental. So I think it's more like playing our both strengths and make something bigger. It's a more organic way, but it's not purely organic, because the purely organic way would be we are trying to do that all by ourselves. We are trying to invent everything by ourselves. No, we are using what is out there. We are using that in order to upgrade our opportunities, but not by making it all Continental.
Yeah, makes sense. I think there are a lot of, I would say, in my experience working with both large cap and mid cap, the idea, I mean, obviously everyone has got a different takes in terms of inorganic acquisitions. Some just focuses on cost cutting measures. So like integrating the business into the parent companies actually is the day one priority. And some of the stuff that you're talking about, keeping them independent, keep them agile, and the speed to market is going to be important. So having this obviously relationship under the same roof, but not necessarily integrating them completely. Also, there are a lot of benefits to it. Obviously, it depends on the objectives that you are trying to accomplish. That takes me to the next question, Frank, where even at Hella, and now obviously you're a pretty senior level executive at Continental, and you're managing thousands of people with billions of dollars in revenues as a P&L. Would love to kind of hear your thoughts about how do you build, retain, and motivate high-performing teams. And when I say teams, is not only just under your direct reports, but also cross-functional teams and global teams.
Yeah, this is that's a very valid and very good question, because we as even in my area, we have very powerful teams all over the world. We have them in Asia, we have them in the US and South America, Middle America, and then we have Europe. So we have different type of cultures, and it's certainly a bit about, first of all, selling a vision. You need to give a purpose to that. You need to have a purpose in a common goal, saying that, hey, this could be really big. This could be great. Then, of course, finding the right balance between this knowledge and the know-how our people have, and also at the same time opening a bit the mind to allow other technologies in, and also pointing out the positive side of being different as a company or as a culture, so that we allow also a small startup to be a role model for some of our teams. Then finding the right people in your organization who really say, wow, that's cool, that's super exciting, I want to be part of that one, and then really enable and give them the freedom, the operational freedom, the freedom to think about this, and also to execute and to act like this, and then making something bigger and setting an example, smaller examples first, coming to a bigger picture, and then having success, which is the ultimate, of course, the ultimate motivator for all the others to join in. So that's what we have a massive cultural initiative in our business area. We call that Spark. It's all about to initiate this idea of a learning organization, being excited about that one, sparking, that's why the name of it, like sparking that, and start a movement which is then becoming bigger. And this all comes and goes with identifying the right individuals to say, okay, I want to do that. I want to go the extra mile, and I'm open to another culture. I'm open to work with a startup company. I know these guys are completely different working style, but I like that, and I try to understand what can I take out of this one, and at the same time give something back. If you are able to do that, and it takes a bit of time, I have to say, and the bigger the organization, the more time you probably need to calculate in. But we are in a good way, meanwhile, I would say.
And are you seeing like have you witnessed sort of people across different geographies? For example, people from Germany or Europe, their motivation is different from the motivation from people from Asia or from the US. And how do you fine tune that sort of the motivation, the opportunities, the challenges, the feedback based on the people from different geographies or different skill sets and different functions?
I mean, yeah, the skill set is one aspect in there, but the other one is a passion and the way how to address new things. And I found in my long years in Asia, and it was not only China, it was Japan, it was Korea, or it was in India. I see that passion when it comes to new technologies. People are looking like this and, wow, that's fantastic, that's great, I want to be part of that one. While you see in some of the European countries, sometimes you see a bit of a hesitation, say, "Oh, another new thing. But we had this very nice thing working in the past. Why don't we continue like that?" So, and the trick is, if you're overexcited and only do the new stuff, and you don't make a second thought about, for example, safety aspects, and you just bring it on the road, that would be too fast. If we just listen to what always worked in the last 20 years, it might be a bit too slow. And you need to honor the experience of those people working in Europe or the US, working for 20 years in a company. They know exactly what can happen. So if you have the right balance of both, someone maybe out of an Asian country is driving things forward, and then you have a fruitful dialogue, not a blocking one, a fruitful dialogue. Say, okay, I see your point. I understand you want to move forward, and I see your passion to bring the system on the road, and you add some of the flavors of experience and say, look, if we make it like this, it might be almost as fast as you think or as you plan, but it has an extra safety net for the driver, for the car. So, and then you can balance it out. But that's nothing which comes naturally, I would say. This is something you have to do every single day. You have to, from the management point of view, you have to enable those discussions and not block them out. And it's, I think, knowing a little bit the different worlds. I know the Asian world, I mean, the Chinese is certainly better than others. I also spent a lot of time in the US. I'm obviously European, so understanding the different aspects of the world helps a lot to assemble that, but it's most important to bring that also in the next levels of management, because I cannot solve that by myself. So we need to have the right people with the right experience. Hopefully people who have seen different sides of the globe.
Sound words and sound advice, Frank. Before we end, any parting thoughts, any last words from your side?
I think the interesting aspect of our industry will be to move ahead with technologies on the one side and a more interesting, let's say, geopolitical situation. So we have to keep that momentum of being open. At the same time, we have to have maybe specific solutions for specific regions in the future. So in my eyes, many people see that with concerns, but it could be also a big chance, because it keeps us very open in the mind to look at different solutions for the same problem, maybe in different regions. And I believe this could be also a very big positive impulse, because we are not so much in one direction only, but we have to think in multiple directions, multiple solutions. So I see that as a chance as well. Even, of course, some of the developments are a bit concerning.
Well, thank you, Frank, for your time and for sharing your thoughts. congrats on all the accomplishments so far. You have a very impressive background and accomplishments in general. And good luck with all the efforts in 2023 and beyond.
Thank you, Shira. Really appreciate it and appreciate to be here.
Piper Sandler Companies, New York Stock Exchange, PIPR, is a leading investment bank driven to help clients realize the power of partnership. Securities brokerage and investment banking services are offered in the U.S. through Piper Sandler & Co., member SIPC, and NYSE. In the UK through Piper Sandler Ltd., authorized and regulated by the UK Financial Conduct Authority, and in Hong Kong through Piper Sandler Hong Kong Ltd., authorized and regulated by the Securities and Futures Commission. Alternative asset management and fixed income advisory services are offered through separately registered advisory affiliates.